Hello again, Hokies. I'm Tech Sideline founder Will Stewart. Welcome into episode 245 of the Tech Sideline Podcast. At long last, we have caught our white whale. That's a metaphor from Moby Dick, in case you're wondering. You always learn something here on the Tech Sideline Podcast. We welcome to the podcast Virginia Tech head men's basketball coach Mike Young. We've got Coach for an hour, and he's pretty good at this stuff, so this should be a lot of fun. And it's all coming up next on the Tech Sideline Podcast. Okay, welcome back in. Before we get into the show, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've been saying for the last 3 episodes that we're almost at 6,000 YouTube subscribers, so you can be the one that puts us over the top. And remember, when you get to 6,000 subscribers, YouTube sends you $5,000. I'm just kidding. So today we've got yours truly on set, plus lead analyst and columnist Chris Coleman, and first-time producer David Cunningham is manning the cameras and the sound. This TSL podcast is sponsored by Commonwealth NIL, leaders in navigating name, image, and likeness. CNIL has signed Justin Mutz, Hunter Couture, Darius Maddox, Sean Padula, Patrick Wessler, and MJ Collins to contracts. Visit CommonwealthNIL.com to learn more about their membership programs and merchandise sales, ways that you can support Virginia Tech's NIL efforts. So let's get to the introduction that matters. Coach Mike Young, welcome in, Coach. Good to have you.
Will, it's good to be with you. Thanks for having me here finally.
Yeah, it's good to have you on after about 3 years of you being in town. So, Coach, you're familiar with Commonwealth NIL, so let's lead with that. Talk about how important it is to the program to have so many of your players on board with CNIL and what it's meant for them and for the program.
Well, it's here and it's not going anywhere, and it's a big deal, and you know, our kids are excited about it. I'm excited for them. You know, they've been great ambassadors for our basketball program for Virginia Tech. They'll be great ambassadors for Commonwealth NIL, and they'll do a great job with it.
All right, so let's set the stage for what's going to happen for the next hour or so. I'm more of a big picture guy, so I'm going to ask some wide-ranging questions, mostly stuff I wanted to ask you, now that I've finally got a chance to talk to you. And certainly Chris will participate in those discussions, but he's also going to ask you lineup-type questions, and we'll get into some detail about some of your current players, how things fit together and what fans can expect the next season. So most of the half hour will be me and you talking, and most of the second half hour will be you and Chris talking. So let's start with the ACC tournament win. Congratulations.
Make sure. Good place to start.
Yeah. So it's been a few months. So how have people's perceptions from your viewpoint of Virginia Tech basketball and even Mike Young changed since you guys did that?
I'm not real sure. Maybe I'm oblivious to that kind of thing, Will. I don't know. We just came off the road. We've been out for much of the month of July. We had 2 5-day periods during the month, and so many good friends and so many compliments, and I had multiple conversations about the winding road that we had to get ultimately to Brooklyn, knowing that we didn't know how many we had to win. I thought at least 2, maybe 3, and in hindsight, maybe it was 4 to advance to the greatest tournament of them all. But it certainly has enhanced our brand as a program. Certainly has enhanced the brand of some of those players that have earned it. All positives.
Yeah. So when you were a kid, so I grew up in Charlottesville. Of course, UVA's there. So, and Chris, where Chris is from around Danville, Chatham around Danville, they'd wheel the televisions in and show the ACC tournament at school. Did they do that kind of stuff in Radford?
Absolutely. Yeah. I can remember the big cart with the television on top. I mean, I can remember it vividly. Second grade with Betty Darden. Throughout, that was an event that was like Christmas. Sit there and watch the ACC tournament all day. Certainly the first day, I guess it was a 9-team tournament back then, if I recall. And it was such a incredible experience. My first one in Greensboro. How about my first 2 ACC tournaments? I have to play North Carolina in the state of North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's like being on the road. So I mean, a real, wonderful experience, having grown up in this region, surrounded by, ACC country, and to participate in that thing has been really cool.
No, I actually grew up secretly hating the ACC.
Did you really?
I did. So Virginia Tech fan first and foremost, and I remember in 1996, Tech was in the NCAA tournament. And just the week before, the teacher had rolled out the TV and we all quit doing schoolwork and we watched the ACC tournament. Well, when I wanted to watch Virginia Tech in the NCAA tournament next week and I asked to do it, they said no. Virginia Tech's not in the ACC, so they don't. Yeah. The ACC tournament was more important than Virginia Tech's NCAA tournament.
Yep.
So I've always, and I wrote about this after Tech won the ACC tournament this year. I said, I've always had a sore spot, a chip on my shoulder because of that. And so it really meant a lot when y'all won that tournament for me this year, because I just think about all those people that I grew up with that would look down on Virginia Tech because Virginia Tech wasn't in the ACC. Well, what do you have to say now?
Not anymore. Let's hope, Chris. Not anymore.
So when we had Storm Murphy on the podcast, I made sure to ask him the question. I asked him, I said, are you aware of the enormity of what you've done? You're 23 years old, and there's guys like me who are 56, 57, 58, 59 years old, and they've been wanting to do this for many years. Do you feel like your players had an appreciation of the historical part of it, or did they just like winning that tournament and beating Duke and UNC?
I don't know that the historical part of it resonates with them. I know we all talk, our players. I've had grown men approach me in tears about that experience and sincere. Yeah. They are touched by what transpired. Young people, I think, to do it as a group and to climb that mountain and to do that on that stage in the Barclays Center, to knock off the likes of North Carolina in the semis and Duke in the final, was they understand how significant it is. That was. This old boy understands historical value. I can tell you that. That is something that will never be taken away from us. We were the ACC champions.
Was there a moment where you knew you were going to win it?
I don't live that way, Will. I never have. I'm always scared to death. I right to the final horn until I look down to my right and Coach Krzyzewski put his back line guys in with about a minute 40 or so, and I remember turning to my staff, and I won't tell you exactly what I said, but it's over. They've thrown in the towel, and we're out of here. That was a pretty cool feeling, I can tell you that.
What was it like coming back into Blacksburg on the bus, pulling up in front of the basketball facility and seeing all those people out there?
I can remember how daggone cold it was.
I remember
Chris.
that
Holy
too.
Cow. Yeah. But just the sea of Hokie fans, students, members of this community, young and old, that mob scene that welcomed us back into the Honhurst parking lot was awfully kind, and I know. Another unbelievable experience for our players, and they were appreciative. We all were appreciative, and I can still see pictures. I didn't see it when it was happening. They got off the bus first, and they're carrying that that trophy through that throng of folks. That was really neat.
There's one specific question I wanted to ask you since the ACC tournament, and it relates to the Clemson game.
Yeah.
When we had Storm on, we asked him about Darius Maddox's game-winning shot.
Yeah.
And I watched the clip this morning to refresh my memory, and we specifically asked him, what was the play call?
There was none.
And Storm said, I thought Keve was going to be in there and that Keve was going to set a ball screen about half court. He said, we're just going to throw it in, get up the floor, and, maybe rub somebody off on the screen and get open. And he said, and then right before the play, they pulled Keve out and they left me in.
Yeah.
He said, so I guess I'm playing Keve's spot. He said, and then we threw the ball in and I saw it was Darius and I just kind of got out of the way. And the specific question I wanted to ask you was, I've seen the clip from behind you as the ball was coming down the court, you were pointing over in the corner to Hunter Couture. And then Darius comes down, makes the shot, and you don't even celebrate. You just turn around and walk down to shake hands. So there was no play.
So many things, so many responses. There was, we had something on pointing at Hunter. I wanted Hunter to run into a ball screen or ghost it, like you're going to set a ball screen, and you kind of lip out of it, which can confuse a switch, can get that defender in his heels. Football, athletics in general, in those moments isn't nearly as scripted as some people might think. It is absolute chaos. You want calmness. It's hard to do that. You're in the ACC tournament. You're up 15 in the second half. You're throwing the ball all over the gym. Hunter Couture misses 3 foul shots, which is unheard of. The wheels are coming off as we know it. And taking Aluma out of the game, we're down 2. Taking Aluma out of the game, I honestly, Chris, I still don't know why I did it. That was a recommendation from one of our assistant coaches. But the thought of maybe throwing them off guard with 5 guards and PJ Hall's on the floor, maybe we can surprise them with something. And then, fellas, you know what? Darius Maddox comes down the floor and gets Amir Dawes, who's a good one-on-one defender. He's on an island. They're all huddled up with their man. They don't want their man to score. Mm-hmm. So it's man on man. Here it is. And that kid goes behind his back and into the air he goes, and he gets, a huge shot down, and we advance. I'd like to tell you that it was all scripted and I knew exactly what I was doing. Doesn't always work like that in college basketball. And the expression or the body language after the game, I was sick. I felt bad for Brad. I've been on the other end of that, had been on the other end of that a couple of months prior against Miami at home in a game we had to win. We were on the rocks. We had to win that game, and Charlie Moore hits a half-court heave, and we lose. And, the finality of that shot for those guys, and we were so bad. Thankful that we got to come back the next day and play, all right? Don't get me wrong. But just, you want to play well. And I thought we played really, really well in the first half and the first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the second half. And then I thought we were terrible. And we got lucky. Certainly weren't going to give it back. But to be able to come back and play Notre Dame the next day was wonderful.
And to my memory, what happened after that was I thought Notre Dame played a great game the next day. But
yeah.
You guys played a better
game. We were
game.
really good.
Yeah. And then there was the semifinal against UNC. And what stands out in my memory was UNC and Duke both shot really poorly from behind the three-point line. And Virginia Tech did not. And Virginia Tech shot well. And these weren't just victories, but they were, I don't remember the exact scores. These were 10 and 15-point victories.
North Carolina was 15. It was 18 or so, 20 or so. Down the stretch. I talked to North Carolina staff last week in Augusta for the Peach Jam tournament, and they make a great a great point. All that stuff was reversed in Cassell Coliseum. All of it.
Yeah.
Caleb Love hit big shots. We had great shot after great shot, and we couldn't get anything down. They were coming off a terrible loss. They were coming off a bad loss to Pittsburgh at home.
I guess senior day, right? For them.
I don't think it was so well. It could have been senior day. Will
it was too early.
No, it was too early. It was too early in the year.
Yeah.
Okay, you're talking about early.
But we had them in the crosshairs. We're playing really good ball. We know that place is going to be bulging at the seams with Hokie fans. It was going to be an unbelievable atmosphere. We were ready to go. Think we got them on their heels a little bit. To their credit, they played really well, and they shot the ball really well. We shot the ball as poorly as we shot the ball. I don't know if we were too amped up. I don't know. That can happen sometimes. It's happened to my teams before. We didn't play well, and they beat us. Now, to your point, ACC tournament, we shot the lights out of it. R.J. Davis missed a couple of shots he never misses.
Yeah.
We thought going into the game that Brady Manick, not their best player, maybe their fourth or fifth best player, but maybe the key to the team. He does not miss an open three-point shot.
Yeah.
And we negated that. We did a great job on him. We wanted to keep a body on him at all times, and we're able to do that. He did not make a three, and we found our way out of there with a monumental win.
And what I recall about the championship game was that Duke and Tech both came out playing really well in the first 10 minutes. And I thought after that first 10 minutes, I thought Duke realized, wow, they didn't fold. And we're in for a battle here. And we talked earlier about, what moment did you know you'd won? And watching the game, for me, it was when Justin Muntz dunked on Paolo Banchero.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was right around that time period that you could just see the look on the Duke's players' faces that they weren't going to solve it, that they were going to lose. So you talked about Brad Brownell after beating Clemson, and I thought about asking this question. I thought, no, don't answer it. But then you kind of brought it up. That was Coach K's last.
Yeah.
And is there a part of you as a coach that thinks about that in a moment like that?
No.
Nope. You just won and you wanted to go celebrate.
No. There's so many things going through your head. Again, to beat Notre Dame on Thursday, North Carolina Friday, and then cap it off with that performance on Saturday against Duke. That's special enough for me. I didn't think about. I did later, but so happy for our players, and that first to the first media timeout under 16, that was 14-12. We couldn't stop them. They couldn't stop us. We guarded the fire out of them. Mutz was phenomenal on Banchero, and Banchero just made, a couple of really big shots. I told our team in that first time out, said, fellas, if you think we're going to outscore them, you're sadly mistaken. That's not going to happen. They weren't shooting the ball great. They were only averaging 5.5 made threes a game. We really wanted to shrink the floor. We knew that Roach could get going. Wendell Moore's certainly capable. Banchero was very hesitant. He wanted to drive it, so we're going to give him a little space. But I thought our staff did a great job of putting our team in the right positions. I thought our team just really played with a high level of basketball intelligence. You've got to rebound the ball. We did that enough to keep Keels off the glass, and certainly Mark Williams. There were a lot of things. There was a lot that went into that game, but a real credit to our team. They were special that night.
Winning 4 games in 4 days with an 8-man rotation, basically. Were you ever worried about fatigue? And let's also talk about like how big is David Jackson and his role as strength and conditioning coach for winning four games in 4 days.
Chris,
like that.
I never thought about it. It was never like, oh gosh, we've got to. I never had that feeling. I didn't. David Jackson's the best. He is the top of the food chain in that space. And, you know, is significant an occurrence just in terms of our staff to get him back. And we all know how much he loves Blacksburg, and he's a Hokie through and through. But what he pours into those guys day in, day out, not just with the physical training and the conditioning, but shaping attitudes with you know, things that the mental toughness part of it that's going on in there day in, day out. What he does with our team on the road. You know, we're lifting throughout the season. We're not going real heavy in the season, but his you know, him coming back here was a very significant part of that weekend and the continued success that we hope to enjoy.
So, Coach, let's go way back. You know that I know some guys that you went to high school with and played high school ball with, and probably a couple of years into your tenure here, I was talking to Richie Davis.
Yeah.
And Richie said, I don't think he used the word. So to be clear about things, you graduated Radford High in 81. I'm doing college years. 81, and Richie and I graduated high school in 83.
Yeah.
I was in Charleston. Richie was here. So he knew you. And he didn't use the phrase grown up in the room, but he said that he knew even back in high school that your brain was wired like a coach's brain. Would you say that's accurate? And when did you know that you wanted to coach?
Everybody in our family coached. Dad was coach at Dublin High School, old Dublin High School, before it consolidated with Pulaski. My uncle, Norman Linneberg, you know, won a gazillion games over there. That's just kind of the family business. That's kind of what, I never wanted to be a fireman. I never wanted to be a policeman. I wanted to coach, have the opportunity to coach, and blessed to be a part of or be with some very trustworthy people, great coaches, good role models. And I caught some breaks, Will, and I guess I've made some breaks too now. I wasn't born on third base, I can tell you that. I eked out a infield single, and I got over to second on a pass ball. But you know, you start in 1986, my first job at Emory and Henry, I made a lot of money. I made $5,000. They also gave me room and board. So, you know, from there, you know, day by day, I wouldn't trade my path for anything. I've had the best time, and been great fun. I think there's a lot of fun left to be had.
So you were at Wofford for 30 years, 13 as an assistant, 17 as a head coach.
Yep.
So and they transitioned from Division II to Division I while you were there.
I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemy. That's a lot of people get tied up in that process and get fired. Mm-hmm. And they hung in there with us through some, you know, lean years to get to something really special. Thankful they did.
So I looked at your overall record at Wofford was 299 and 244.
Yeah.
551 winning percentage. What's interesting to me is in the first 7 years you were 90 and 117.
Yeah.
435 winning percentage. Your last 10 years, 209 and 127, 622 winning percentage. What changed? Was it you? Was it
better
the
players? That's what changed.
Well, particularly there at the end when you went 30
Oh,
and 5.
gosh.
Yeah.
A bunch of those guys are here now. Had dinner with them last night. They played in the TBT, whatever you call that thing, the tournament. The winner gets $1 million or something. You know, well, I could talk on and on. I wasn't very good. We weren't very good, consequently. It's a really hard league. Davidson, College of Charleston. I mean, good coaches, good players. Bob McKillop, who recently retired from Davidson, one of the best coaches I've ever competed against. But hung in there, you know, and stayed the course. And I don't know that I figured some things out. We got a little bit better player. And then you wake up one day in 2000, 9, 10, and you got a great. I had a great team. And ventured into the great state of Minnesota for 3 really, really good players: Noah Dahlman, Jamar Diggs, and Cameron Rundles. And then, had it solidified. We had a tough year in 12-13, won it again in 13-14 and 14-15. We got our feet on the ground in 2008, 2009, and it was in place then. The culture was in place. The program was in place, finally, thankfully. And, adjusted to some things, more skill, more guys that can pass, dribble, shoot. And our teams defensively got a lot better during that time too.
Yeah. So I got a 2-part question I want to ask you, and then we'll turn you over to Chris, and he wants to ask you about some of the guys currently on the team.
Let me have Chris.
As your record got better and better and better, did you start thinking, I want to try my hand at a bigger place and a bigger environment? Was that in your mind when the Tech job came along, or did that come out of nowhere?
I hoped that I would have the opportunity. It wasn't something that, I would lie awake in bed at night hoping for, dreaming for. I don't want to say that I'd resign myself. I didn't resign myself. I had something good going. I had a great spot.
Yeah.
And if Coach McKillop just wrapped up a career at Davidson after 33 years. Rick Bird, dear friend at Belmont, same school for many, many, many years. And if that was what, I had great security down there. I wasn't going anywhere. And I've told people all the time, all I've ever wanted to do is coach. That's it. I didn't really care where, and I had that opportunity. And but when this transpired, I couldn't honestly couldn't have imagined a better opportunity for me and my background in Radford. Saw my first game in Cassell Coliseum with my dad in 1970 and 71, about the time of Bristow, Ed Frazier, those guys. To have the opportunity to come back here, pretty special, man. And it's been awesome, and just tickled to death with what we've managed to, create in 3 short years.
Relatively short period of time. So the second part of that question is, that's a big jump up from Wofford to an ACC school like Virginia Tech. Did you have to, I'm struggling to figure out how to ask this. Did you know?
I haven't changed a thing. Let me answer it for you.
Once I have more research.
Yeah. Well, I haven't changed anything.
The keys to success are the same.
Yeah. I'm coaching the same. All right. Take care of the kids. Good folks that are about the right stuff, that are passionate basketball players, that want to be great players. I had a number of people. Freddie Johnson, great friend of mine at Greensboro Day School, who's had a bunch of really, really good players. I was in his office first month or so. He says, how are you going to change what you do offensively? I said, I'm going to try to do it exactly the same way we did it down there. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, we'll adjust. We're doing exactly the same thing. We're still running exactly the same things. And we add a little bit and we take away a little bit. And I've had a lot of fun with that. Not that I've proved anybody wrong, that, what we did there can be replicated here just in terms of style. But that's what we're doing, man, and working out pretty well.
I want to go back to November of 2002.
Yeah.
You talk about it's great coaching in Cassell Coliseum from the home bench. Yeah. Well, you coached from the visitors bench.
I did.
You got your first win against a Division I opponent in Cassell against Virginia Tech. It was.
Is that
we
right?
Looked it up earlier today.
Virginia Tech was terrible, Chris.
Yes, they were.
they were gosh awful.
Yep.
And I can remember a young man. You notice some things. And I'm sitting out on the bench before the game, and there's a big, burly He was a good player for the Hokies. And he came on the floor, kids are just going to warm up and shoot. And this guy's wearing a toboggan. And it struck me as odd. And I can remember walking back through the tunnel, and I grabbed an assistant and said, if we play a good ball game in here, we're going to win. They were coming off a trip to the Bahamas. They lost to Michigan down there. Went up, I think we were up 20 in the first half.
You were, yeah.
I'll never forget the play of the game. They came all the way back. Bryant Matthews was on that team.
Brian Chase was on that team.
Brian Chase and Bryant Matthews were both really good players.
Carlos Dixon was on that
Carlos
team.
Dixon.
They had some good players.
From Reeville, North Carolina. Bryant Matthews was from Columbia High School in Columbia, South Carolina. But play of the game, they came all the way back. We had a kid make a big play down the stretch. And it was a turnover, a long rebound as time is clicking down. And I could still see Chase charge into one of my guys. And Mike Stevens, very good friend, long time big league official, great official. You expect that to be a block on the road in a game like that.
Yeah.
It was a charge, and Mike called it a charge, and that was it. Game over. We got out of there with a win. That was, I think there were maybe 1,500 people there.
I was one of them.
There was nobody. There was nobody there.
There's nobody.
But still, I can, growing up, going to games in that building, I was still just taken aback at how loud the place got, and there was no one there. The Cassell guard had not been cultivated, formed yet.
Right.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a lot of fun.
We're a little bit better these days.
Yes. Yes.
Speaking of which, let's talk a little bit about your personnel right now.
Yeah.
I know you lost some good players, but
we did.
Obviously you bring back some good ones too, and you added some good ones. So when you look at a potential lineup like Padula, Couture, Maddox, Mutz, Basili, I think probably most fans expect that to be the starting five.
Yeah.
But
that's what the head coach would expect right now.
Right. But did you feel like you have more depth?
I do. We are deep. We are deeper, Chris. We are deeper, and our roster's healthier. I think we're better in the backcourt. I'm really excited about Rodney Rice and MJ Collins. Now, I say that here in late July with two young men that haven't made the first play of their college careers, but they're going to. Padula's having a great summer. Couture's Maddox. I feel good there. We don't have a true backup point guard, Rodney Rice. That was part of the recruiting process with him. So he wanted to play. Some point. But he's such a good runner and an offensive scorer. That was kind of what we came to is you're going to play the point. You're also going to play off the ball. I've always thought you need 2.5.
Yeah. You
need 2.5 point guards. And we have 1 and 2 halves in Couture and Rodney. And I'm convinced that we'll be A-OK. I'm excited to see the front line evolve. I do expect to start Mutz and Basili. But we're going to have a formidable backup at that 5 spot with one of 3 guys, Malijal Poteet, who's been a very pleasant surprise. I mean, he's big as a house. He's strong, much better feet than I anticipated. Lynn Kidd is having a very good summer for us, playing very well in our practices. Patrick Wessler is going to be a very good player around here at some point, and then at the 4 spot with Darren Buchanan, a young man from Wilson High School in D.C., or John Camden, who will play some at the 3, some at the 4. Just talk to him about it. You are who you can guard, and if you can guard a backcourt player, you'll play some in the backcourt, and you give us the opportunity to switch a number of things. But we're going to find a spot for him because he's got some length and can really shoot the ball. we kind of like those guys around here.
It seems like I think it's going to be a more versatile team. There's more positional versatility.
I agree with that. Now, that's taking nothing away from those guys. Storm Murphy was exceptional. Keve Aluma. You know, when it's all said and done, you know, people ask me all the time, guys, who's the best players you've coached? Well, I've coached a bunch of them, all right? I've coached a bunch. The most transformative players I've had in my career have been Noah Dahlman at Wofford, that first championship team in 9-10, and Keve Aluma, who came with me from Wofford, sat out, worked his tail off, got better, and you know, ultimately in year 3 he helps us win an ACC championship.
And let me jump in here. When you say transformative, do you mean they've transformed themselves or your program?
Both, especially on Aluma and the transformation from a defender rebounder to, you know, a first, second team all ACC guy. That, you know, he couldn't shoot a lick when he came here. We take very little credit for that. He worked at it and he put the time in, and you know, his progress as a player certainly aided our progress as a basketball program here in three short years.
Really, it's rare that a guy improves from the start of his career, like all the way through, like Keve does, and just adds so much to his game. I think.
Chris, he was late to the game. He was a soccer player. And I don't know that he really knew what working on it really meant. But at some point during his college years, he fell in love with it. And I think, you know, you hear people say the lights came on. The lights came on for him, and he had the realization that I can be really, really good. And he embraced that and attacked that, and you know, just kept getting better and better and better. I didn't see it in his sit-out year, our first year here. Chester Frazier came to me and said he came from a Kansas State team that was really, really good. And Chester said he would have played as much as he wanted to play at Kansas State. And I kind of looked at him rather funny, like, and thought a lot about that. And, you know, I finally saw what he meant the next year when he you know, had a great year for us.
Yeah. Speaking of the light going on, Darius Maddox, the light went on for him at a certain point this past season.
Yeah.
Was it just defense that he had to figure out?
That was a big part of it. He couldn't guard anything. We knew how capable he is. He had some good things happen to him. You know, he had a couple of good offensive games, which keeps him on the floor a little bit longer, and he takes a stride defensively, and he finds himself in better positions. He rebounded the ball. He's always been a good rebounder, but you know, some things coming together in a very positive way. Fellas, I can remember being at Chapel Hill, and we lost down there 10 in a hard part of our season. We'd just come from Boston College, where we played poorly and lost. And the North Carolina game on Monday is a COVID makeup game that we missed.
Yeah, I remember that.
On December 28th. All right. So, you know, here we go. And we are, for lack of a better expression, we're taking on water. And I'm watching our team play in this game, and I've got no idea how we can score enough to beat anybody. Everything is going through Aluma and Mutz. We're not shooting the ball very well at all, but, you know, inch by inch, and you hang in there, and, you know, we start playing better basketball, and Padula emerges, and Maddox comes on like gangbusters, and now we've got it. Not a minute too soon, and, you know, we can throw a number of guys at you that can ring the bell, and those guys really, they played great basketball. And I guess maybe Padula's coming out party. Maybe was the Florida State game when he hit 5 first-half threes, and then he hit his 6th one, his first shot in the second half. so much about confidence, so much about having your shoulders back and the feeling that I belong on this floor. You know, I'm awfully proud of those guys. They hung in. They continue to hang in there.
Well, we talked to Storm about that when he sat in this chair, and I flat asked him, was there a time period where you weren't sure if you could play in the ACC? And he said about halfway through the season, he was wondering. And do you remember the assistant coach he went to lunch with? Do you remember who it was?
Not sure. I don't remember.
But he just thinks he had a good conversation, and things just turned for him, and his confidence increased at the same time.
I think it was Kevin. I was
probably yeah, because they would know each other from.
Yeah, it was Giltner. I'm telling you guys, every year's different. Every year's, you know, it's not all rainbows and ice cream. You know, there's going to be some tough moments. Again, proud of how they hung in there. They kept showing up. They continue to practice well. When things are going bad in college athletics, if you got the wrong guys, that can roll completely off the rails. We continue to practice well. You've heard me say it. I knew that at some point we were going to get it squared away, and it was going to be a beautiful thing. Thank goodness it did finally.
Well, I woke up the morning of that Florida State game, which was a place Virginia Tech had not won since the 80s.
1992.
Forever.
Yeah, since we were in the Metro, right? So I'm like, well, Florida State's a good team. Virginia Tech's been struggling. Just doesn't seem like it's going to be our day. And then it was. And from there, like, Florida State just dropped off a cliff, and you guys rose up. And obviously it's more than about one game. It's about your team. And like you said, you continue to practice hard and everything like that. But it's funny how sometimes it seems like there is a crossroads. And it was like both Florida State and Virginia Tech met their crossroads that day and just went in opposite direction.
I can remember sitting in that hotel down there in Tallahassee thinking, you know, we're 2-7.
10-10, I believe.
10-10 overall.
That's right.
You know, it's late January. This is not good. You know, all these expectations coming into the year, Aluma, Mutz, all these guys. You know, I took a great deal. That was a heavy burden. I took a great deal of responsibility. Last time I checked, I'm the head coach. I am responsible. And then you'll go over there in an afternoon game, and we start throwing shots in left and right, and we get out of there with a win. And then, like you said, Chris, you know, we took off from there. It was a lot of fun. I think a lot of life lessons. We talked about them throughout the course of it. And again, proud of our program. I'm proud of our staff, proud of our team with what ultimately came from all that.
Back to personnel. It's not every day that the program signs the DC Metro Player of the Year.
Yeah.
Tell us about Darren Buchanan and what he brings to the table and what you expect.
Playing hard is a skill.
Yes.
And that is a real attribute of his. He's one of those guys, fellas, that when you talk to him, when you point something out to him, his eyes are big as $50. And he hears everything you're saying. He wants to be a great player. He wants to learn. I'm careful not to put, we're going to treat him like we treat every young person coming into our program. We're going to let him run his race. We're not going to put any undue pressure on him. I expect him to play this amount. We expect him to average this. He's going to be a really good player. Not sure when that's going to be. I love his work habits. I love his attention to detail. He's tough as a pine knot, and is going to be a very good player around here for a long time.
What is it that he needs to work on? Because I'm intrigued by him too.
He doesn't shoot the ball very well. His pull up from 15 is good. He's got good hands. He's got big, strong hands. And I think the language and the terminology that we use, that's new to all of them now. Don't get me wrong. He's no different in that regard than anyone else coming in as a freshman. But just getting up to speed with the speed of it, the defensive things that will be new, the speed. the strength. Everybody's strong. He can just bully some guys, in that league. He's not going to do that here. But I love him, and he's going to be a good one.
It's funny you mention, playing hard is a skill. And there's a basketball scout that I know, and I'm sure you know him too. He's always told me that there's an age-old argument among scouts. Is playing hard and toughness a skill or an intangible? And he always, on his scouting reports, lists it as a skill. And he lists it in this like its own category, just like shooting, handle, rebounding, things like that. And then toughness, it's its own thing. So it's interesting to hear you say that, because I've always thought that was a good philosophy. Because I do think it's undervalued.
Not in our office, I can tell you that. Without toughness, I just don't know that you can get there unless you're just a abnormal person with in terms of your skill. But I think of Coutures and Mutts, those guys. I think of this will be my 21st year in coaching, fellas. I don't know a kid that I can point to that was a really good player for us that I didn't think was really tough.
Right.
It's essential. I think it's an essential part of a man's makeup if he's going to make it.
Those guys, Jamon Gordon, Xavier, and Dowdell, they're the ones that actually made me realize it, how important it was for basketball. Yeah. Everybody wants to talk about the recruiting chops of Mike Jones in D.C. I think everybody talked about that when you first hired him. But what does he bring to the table as a coach? Obviously, he's very good. And how long are you going to be able to keep him? Because he's surely taken the route to be a head coach one day.
And he will be. Guys, he won a lot of basketball games. It may be the most prestigious and coveted high school job in the country at DeMatha, historically. Morgan Wooten and Adrian Dantley, and go back through all those. He coached Markelle Fultz. He coached all these, guys that are now in the NBA. Here's what I can tell you about the recruiting piece of it. The AAU culture in DC, in the Maryland, Northern Virginia, DC region is very complicated. It's a web, and he gets along with all of them. There are three big programs in D.C: Team Mello, Team Durant, and Team Takeover. And he's very good friends with each of those directors: Keith Stevens, Takeover, Wayne Pratt with Durant, and so on. That can tell you a lot about Mike Jones. He's a wonderful man. The coaching part I thought was that's a piece of cake. I've seen him work. DeMatha is one of the first places I went. You're going to go to Oak Hill and you're going to go to DeMatha. And I saw the command he had in that gym and the work that he did with those young people. He was the first person I contacted when Chester left, and that was a sad. I had to this day such a great relationship with Chester Frazier, who I didn't know from Adam's House Cat, and ultimately became, a dear friend. But boy, has Mike, been great for us, and a real resource for me. I trust him with everything. What you want to have is a person with you that if something goes wrong, all right, like the flu, COVID, you better have somebody over there that's ready to step up and take the levers, and he is, along with Christian and Kevin. We've had great staffs in our 3 years. I think we keep everyone intact this year, and I feel great about that.
Yeah, I think at a place like D.C., like you said, the AAU scene can be very complicated. When you came up from Wofford to Virginia Tech, you're walking in the door now at different AAU programs, maybe that you weren't quite as used to. How important was that to you when you put together your first staff, that you felt like you needed to be surrounded guys who had been at the Power 5 level maybe and were used to that, used to the different AAU programs?
That was rather daunting. Mm-hmm. I can remember like it was yesterday, fellas, sitting in that office, and I'm by myself, and I don't have anyone on staff. I've got 4 players, big office. It's midnight. I'm thinking, what in the world have I got myself into? That's
but the money's good.
I hope. I hope it's not a couple months, and out on my ear. The old adage or the old line of thinking in this business is don't hire people you don't know. Well, I hired 3 I didn't know. Luck might be my middle name, guys. I've had a bunch of luck. And Chester Frazier, Antoine Jackson, Christian Webster were fabulous. I had the opportunity to move Kevin Giltner up, who I brought with me, played for me. A great trust in him and his development as a young coach. And then, Chester Lee, Mike comes in. Ace Custis has been a mainstay. Matt Olinger, Stephanie Boleyn, chief of staff, has been remarkable. I thought about her. My cousin, Robert Linneberg at Raff University, suggested it. She played at Virginia Tech. She loves Virginia Tech. That was one of the best things I've done is bringing her on board. She's been awesome.
Great timing. The Charleston Classic field got set while you were on the podcast today. Start off with Old Dominion, in-state rival.
There's a piece of paper right there, Coach.
There is under there.
I know it, fellas. I looked at it.
It is.
I got it.
Yeah.
I got it right there. The matchup with Davidson and College of Charleston really surprised me.
Yeah, that is a little.
Those are interesting matchups. But I played in that tournament in 2011, and came in 3rd. It's a great tournament. There's a lot of great things. We all love Charleston, but that tournament's played Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, and then the final day is Sunday. I think they do a great job of organizing it. I've got a lot of friends down there. I love that arena. I think it'll be a great test for us. Potential matchup with Penn State. And South Carolina's on the other side, as is Davidson. So Colorado State's NCAA tournament team last year, big great tournament. Look forward to getting there.
I think Tech won
They did.
Won it in 2019.
Tech beat Purdue.
That was actually one of the better basketball games I've ever watched.
That was a great one. I saw some of that.
Because Purdue was an Elite 8 team that year. Tech was Sweet 16.
Exactly
it was a really high scoring game.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, high level basketball.
They had I was thinking they had the little guard.
They had Carson Edwards.
Was that Carson Edwards?
Yeah, it was Carson Edwards. Yeah, sure was.
So I got a question for you, Coach.
I'm ready.
Let me fire my phone back up here. So let me read the whole thing. Ask him about his best Coach Bob Johnson story. Coach Johnson was a great man and a fantastic coach and mentor for a lot of folks. He's the only man that when he said he could kill you with a spoon, you believed him.
Bob Johnson was like a dad to me. I was a terrible player. I had the wonderful opportunity to play for him. And he gave me my first job, making $5,000 a year, and he gave me my start. He was a mentor, role model. I've got so many. Not many of them are clean enough to share with you on air.
Not surprised.
He was awesome. He was a great coach, but his way with people, he was really, really smart. He taught Western civilization after 10 or 15 years. He was a West Point person, and then I went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology or something like that. Rensselaer, maybe, if I recall. I was very, very close to him. Loved him. Loved playing for him. Loved working for him. He was at that Virginia Tech game when we won here. Okay. My first year as a head coach. I'll never forget seeing him up on his way out. That was a terrible loss for a lot of us. We thought so much of Coach.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess we got time for one more.
Go for it.
ACC Champions this past year, what do you have for an encore?
Yeah,
Let's
I was
do
going
it
to ask
again,
that same
fellas.
question.
Come on. I mean, we had so much fun. Why wouldn't we strive to go back and do it again?
That's right. Where's it at? Charlotte this year?
It's in Greensboro.
It's in Greensboro.
It's in Greensboro.
So I will tell you, living in Charlottesville as a kid, UVA won that thing in 1976. Unexpected with Wally Walker as their star player.
Yeah.
What a lot of people forget is that UVA went all the way to the championship game the next year, too, and lost a narrow game to North Carolina. So it can be done. You can come out of nowhere and be right there again.
Well, we got a lot of work to do between now and then, and I know our league. I think this league is going to be back. I thought it was very good last year. I think it's going to be really hard this year. I think Miami's back in business. North Carolina, certainly Duke. It's going to be a great year. I'm excited about our team. I think we got another really good team. I look forward to getting started.
Yeah. So one other one we can get from the message boards is, what are your thoughts on the impending Cassell Coliseum renovations? I'm
looking forward to it. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. The renderings are exciting. I never don't even want to think about leaving. It's in too good a spot, guys. There's too much history in there. Mm-hmm. I love coaching in that building. I do. But we need a renovation. We're all aware of that. I hope that we don't have to play a year outside of Cassell Coliseum. I don't know where we would do that. Those are not problems that they're asking my opinion on. But when that does happen, when that money is in place, there's going to be exciting times for us and a real shot in the arm in a number of other areas in terms of recruiting and so on. That'll be fun.
I think that's what happened to Georgia Tech when they redid theirs. They had to play for a year, and I guess the Hawks
played a year. They played a year in Phillips Arena downtown, or maybe it's the old Omni. I forget exactly.
I think it was Phillips, but I wouldn't swear to.
Yeah. I know. When I originally asked Whit the question, he said he was hopeful that they could get it done without having to play somewhere else. Which I assume that somewhere else would be Roanoke.
Yeah, I would assume. Mr. Babcock, we trust. We'll get it right, and it'll be a welcomed addition when it does get here.
So, how much do recruits care about the arena because they play on the floor? How much do they care if it's 10,000 seats or 20,000 seats, and what it looks like from the outside, and whether or not it has luxury boxes and things like that?
Will, that's an interesting question. I don't think it matters to them as much as playing time. The ACC is a big deal. Let's be honest. Playing time and NIL opportunities and the other things that kids are presented with, but they're also young people, and the bells and whistles and the bright lights, and doesn't hurt.
All right, appreciate the hour, Coach.
Thanks, guys.
Good finally having you on, and hope to have you on again sometime.
Look forward to it. Appreciate both of you. Thanks for what you do for all of us.
So again, this is Tech Sideline Podcast 245, featuring Mike Young, a guy you may have heard of, sponsored by CommonwealthNIL.com, and we'll see you again on the next Tech Sideline Podcast.